Hi, good morning, gentlemen. Today is Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel. We left off the top. We were discussing regarding doing a bris milah in a makom, or if by the milah, if there is tsaras there, a beharis, some sort of leprosy on it, and one is not allowed to cut it off in order to become tahor. So, but we said that the mitzvah of bris milah overrides the prohibition of cutting off tsaras. So 4 lines from the top. Omer Mar says Basar, Alfi Shiesham Beheres Yimo, Diva Rabbi Yosha. So we mentioned a brisa that Rabbi Yosha holds that to cut off, you're supposed to cut off the Beheres. You should give a bris milah even if there's Beheres there. Diva Rabbi Yosha. So Hal Lamalikra. Why do you need a pasuk? Davar Shemes Kavinu. It's something you don't intend, right? The Davar Shemes Kavin Mutter. Is Davar Shemes Kavin is Mutter. In other words, if I don't intend to cut it, now my purpose of doing of cutting the Beheres off is nothing to do with the Beheres there. I want to go ahead and remove the foreskin. It happens to be that there is a Beheres there, so but those are not my intentions. That should be a Davar Shemes Kavin, and Davar Shemes Kavin is Mutter. Some Rabbi Yehuda. So it must be according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that Davar Shemes Kavin is Aser. So even though I don't intend to do it, since it's going to be, perhaps it might be the result, so therefore that would be Aser, and that's why you need a pasuk to tell you that even in this case it's mutter. And Rav Amar Filu Tema, Rabbi Shimon says Rabbi Shimon, Maida Rabbi Shimon Psik Reisha, V'lo Yamus, right? Rabbi Shimon holds that normally it's Aser in a case of Psik Reisha, because according to Rabbi Shimon, even though if you don't intend to do it, it normally is mutter, unless if it's undoubtedly going to be the result. Here, obviously you're cutting it off, undoubtedly it's going to be the result, and therefore it would have been Aser, so therefore we need the pasuk of Basar. V'Abai Leslie High Svara. But Abai doesn't hold of this svara that Rabbi Shimon agrees. Not only Rabbi Yehuda, but even Rabbi Shimon would agree in the case of a psik reisha. Abai v'Rabba the Martavayu. Why did Rabbi Shimon psik reisha v'lo yamus? Right? We know that Abai and Rabba said together that Rabbi Shimon agrees that Davar Shemes Kavin is Aser in a case where it is automatically going to happen. So our answer is Basar the Shami me Rabba svara. After he heard from Rabba say this, then he agreed. In other words, initially he didn't hear him say it, but once he's heard that it was a psik reisha, then he agreed with Rav in that case and a psik reisha. But in this case, when he initially said it was according to Rabbi Yehuda and not Rabbi Shimon, it was before he agreed that the psik reisha would have been aser. And Ika Lamasti Lahad Abai v'Rava. And some learn actually this back and forth between Abai and Rava. And actually on something else. The pasuk says, "Hishamer b'nega hatzaras lishmar me'od lasos." The pasuk says you should be careful with your nega tzaras, not to go ahead and cut it off. It says la'asois yata oisa ba'oisata b'sidi shal gabi ragloi v'mod shal gabi ksefo. Notice you can't go ahead, and the pasuk uses the word la'asos, to do. Now you should be careful not to do. No, you shouldn't go ahead and actively go ahead and remove the tzaras. However, if you're going ahead and tying your shoes and on your legs, or your sandals onto your legs, and the tzaras will come off, or let's say you have tzaras in your shoulder and you're carrying stuff on your shoulder, that even though it might come off, then that's okay, because that's not your doing. That's not your la'asos, right? That's unintentionally. And if it comes off, it comes off. It's not your intention. Then the Gemara asks on that. It says, why do you need a pasuk? That is Davar Shemes Kavin, but Davar Shemes Kavin mutter. Isn't that Davar Shemes Kavin? Davar Shemes Kavin is mutter. I don't need you to go permit it. Some Rabbi Yehuda. No, and this Rabbi says no. Only according to Rabbi Yehuda that holds the Davar Shemes Kavin is aser. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Davar Shemes Kavin is aser. And in this case, unintentionally, it's a special case. It's mutter because the pasuk says lasos. And Rava Amar Afilu Tamer Rabbi Shimon. Even if you say it's Rabbi Shimon, Ma'ida Rabbi Shimon Psik Reisha V'lo Yamus. Well, you can even say it's Rabbi Shimon, because since this case is automatically, if you're going to go ahead and give a bris milah, since this case it's going to go ahead and come off, right, when you put it on your shoulder or when you tie it up, it's automatically going to come off. So therefore it should be aser. It's Davar Shemes Kavin, but it's a psik reisha. So the Gemara says and Abai doesn't agree to that. Abai Leslie High Svar. Abai v'Rabba Damar Tavayu Moed Rabbi Shimon psik reisha v'lo yamus. Right, both Abaye and Rava both said on Rabbi Shimon that if something's going to automatically happen, like when you're carrying something heavy on your shoulder and you have tzaras on your shoulder and tzaras is going to come off, even Rabbi Shimon, who normally says Davar Shemes Kavin is mutter, he will say in this case it's aser. So the one answers Labasa Shamim Rava Sabra. And after he heard the svara, then he agreed. In other words, only after he heard that the psik reisha, then he agreed to that. that's when he said in this case, yes, and even in this case, I would agree with you that Rabbi Shimon would have answered, and therefore we need the pasuk of lasas. The Abaye Rabbi Shimon, hi, basar me'avi. Abaye, according to Rabbi Shimon, right? So, initially we thought that Abaye would say that you can learn this Davar Shein Sky is mutter. So, therefore, what do you need to do? The word basar, what me'avi? So, Rav Avram, the Omer lakutz b'harasa miskavin. So in the case of a person that we mentioned, a person is chayiv kares if he goes ahead and he leaves on his milah. If he doesn't get a bris milah once he's the age of 20, because that's when a person is chayiv kares. So let's say he goes ahead and he wants to go ahead and give himself a bris milah, but his intentions are to cut off the tzaras in order to purify himself, to become tahor. So in such a case, it says basar, right? My avilei. So when he says lakuz barzahu miskabin, so tinach gadol. So in such a case, right, where he intends to go ahead and cut it off, right? You would be allowed to, right? Even though his intentions are to become tar. So this makes sense. Tinach gadol. Okay, so in a case of a gadol, right? So you're allowed to go ahead and override it and go ahead and give your bris milah to avoid the kares and go ahead and become and cut it off, even though his intentions were to become tar. So that works with a gadol, someone who can be chayav kares. So katan ma'iklim member. So why would a katan be allowed to do? Why would a katan be allowed to go ahead and if you want to go ahead and intensify ma'iklim member? So let's say the father of the katan, he's the one who says, no, since the responsibility of a katan, of a baby, is upon the father. So therefore, if the father says, right, that I go ahead and cut off the tsaras for the purpose of making the baby tahor, that is the case that we're talking about. So no, it would apply because even though obviously a baby can't have intentions, but if the father is the one having the intentions, so then that would be then it would be on the father in such a case. But I understand why would that be mutter if there's someone else able to go ahead and do it? Why would you be able to? Why would the father be able to go have someone else go ahead and do it? Anytime you have an asin loisase. So over here the asay is give a bris milah. The loisase is do not become tahor by cutting off your tzaras. So you have to go ahead and wait the proper time, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks, in order to become tahor. So, but if it's possible to become tahor, if it's possible to do both of them, in other words, not violate the loisase, right? Then it would be fine. So, so therefore, if you have somebody else who's not responsible for the tuma, right, of the baby, so let someone else go ahead and be in charge of the bris milah. So therefore, he's not the one who's saying, go ahead and cut it off in order to be tahor. So rather, and then someone else does it. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara answers the lakacher. There is nobody else. In other words, since it's on the father, and the father is the one who wants him to become tahor, so therefore, the moment that he goes ahead and cuts off the tzaras in order to go ahead and become tahor, which is the loisase, nevertheless, he's doing the asay of fulfilling the mitzvah of bris milah and to avoid the kares. Or there's no kares because it's a baby in this case, but in order to give the bris milah. And therefore, according to Abaye, that's the reason why it says basar in this case, in order to teach you that even though the father's intentions are too big to make to make him tahor, nevertheless it would be permitted.
Do we make the assumption that the father gives the bris, actually cuts it?
So over here, actually, we would have made the assumption, right? That was a good point. But Rashi says over here, right? Rashi mentions that he mentions it to the moel, right? If you look at Rashi, it says Ba'omer lakutz and Godol shu bar oinshin ve'omer lamoel lakutz baraso, right? So in other words, we're talking about a case. We're saying it basically commanding the moel to give it. So therefore, even though he doesn't do the bris milah himself, if one commands, right? If the moel is doing it on as basically a messenger of the father, that would be like the father doing it. Good point. So 2 dots. Oh my God. Yontif ain't a deicha ela b'zmanos. We said Yontif. The only time Yontif overrides or bris milah overrides Yontif is if the bris milah is done on day 8, which a baby is commanded to do. However, if it is day 9 or afterwards, then you do not do the bris milah on Yontif. You have to wait till after Yontif. So ela b'zmanos so bilvaz imnole. So menani milif. We're knows from Amachis. So I have a couple terutzim. Says v'chein tana debeichis gamar kar the pasuk says lo simenu ad baiker. The pasuk says a person should go ahead and eat the korban pesach the first night of Pesach, which is the night of this is the 15th at night. And it says you should not leave anything over. And if you leave it over, it says ad boker be'esh tisrofu. In the right? It says in the morning you should leave it over. Now, which morning is it? Ad boker shein tamalem ad boker. I already know. It already says the morning. So if that's the case, so why say a boker again? Matamalem ad boker. Because theytain low boker sheini this year to tell you a second morning. In other words, the morning after the Leil Seder is still Yontif, right? That's the first day of Yontif. So you have to wait actually an additional day till the first day of Chol Moed. Why is that? Why don't you just do it on Yontif? Because you're not allowed to go ahead and burn it on Yontif for no reason. So too, since those are basically left over and not done bismana, that's after the time. So too, bris milah done after the time should not be done on Yontif. Rather, it should be done in the next morning. And Abai Yomar Kol says Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos, Olas Chol b'Shabbos. It says the Olas Shabbos is done on Shabbos. Right? The Ola of the Chol is done on Shabbos. Olas Chol b'Yontif, and also an Ola of a weekday Ola is not brought during Yontif. And Rav says different source. Amar Kar the pasuk says Ulavado Yaseh Lochem. It is only that, only cooking you something which you need. Eichel nefesh should be done on Shabbos. Ulavado Yaseh Lochem. Uvloi Machshirin, and says only the cooking v'loi Machshirin and not other preparations. And Levado v'loi Mila Shalom Bismana. And Levado teaches you to only dafka this and not Mila Shalom Bismana. In other words, not a bris milah after day 8. Because you could have made a kavachomer like we saw yesterday, that perhaps a bris milah, even shlo bismana, should be deicha, because that pushes off saras. You're allowed to cut off saras, and nevertheless you're not allowed to do avoda if you're a mitzora, and avoda is allowed to be done on Shabbos. So therefore, you might have thought that bris milah can be done on Shabbos, even shlo bismana, and nevertheless you're not allowed to. And Rav Ashi Amar Shabboson, it says Shabboson was an aseyu. Not only is there a loisa say not to do malacha on Yontif, rather there's an asay because it says Shabboson, you should rest, right? So aseyu for having the Yontif asay loisa say. Therefore, Yontif is not just a loisa say of do not do malacha. There's a loisa say of do not do malacha, and there's an asay of you shall rest. So therefore, since you have both an asay and a loisa say, an asay deiches loisa say asay. Therefore, an asay is not deicha loisa say an asay. Now back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "Kalam Rabbi Kiva." Rabbi Kiva was the one who said that. Rabbi Kiva said that any preparations that you can do before Shabbos or Yontif, you're not allowed to do on Shabbos and Yontif. If you can't do it only on Shabbos, right? Let's say the cutting of the bris milah or the other malachas, then no other way to do it. That's right, or the shechting of the Korban Pesach, or the shechting of the Korbanos. So those you can do that. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Halach, Rabbi Kiva, like Rabbi Kiva. Utana nami gabi Pesach. Let's learn about the Korban Pesach. Yeah, gamna. Kalam Rabbi Kiva, kol mach. Anything you can do from before Shabbos is not over at Shabbos. However, shchita, but the shchita, the Pesach, so you can't do it before. You can't do it before. So that is deichas Shabbos. That is, overrides Shabbos. So right, once again, if Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos, right, you can do all the other preparations, but you can't shech the Korban Pesach on Friday, right, which is 2 days before Pesach. You can only do it on Erev Pesach. So therefore, that overrides the Shabbos. There we said Rabbi Kiva. We need both cases to say both the case of bris milah and the case of Korban Pesach that the halacha is like Rabbi Kiva, that any preparations, any malachas that can be done from before Shabbos is done before Shabbos, is not allowed to go overhead and right Shabbos. Why did he say it twice? If we just learn in our case by bris milah that any preparations that need to be done can be done before, such as bringing the knife and carrying and making the knife. So the like a kares. Because over there by a baby, right? Maybe over there the reason why it's not machshir is because if you don't do it, the baby is not chayav kares. Because you can't be chayav kares, right, until you're 20 years old. The baby can't be chayav kares. No one is chayav kares if you don't go ahead and do a bris milah. So maybe that's why any preparations that could have been done before do not override Shabbos. But Pesach, a person does not bring the Korban Pesach. Dika kares, that he is chayav kares if he doesn't bring the Korban Pesach. Maybe I would say that it should be deicha Shabbos. Now, so therefore, we had to say in that case that even by bris milah is deicha Shabbos. If we just knew by Korban Pesach that that you're not allowed to do any other malachas that could have been done before on Shabbos. You go brisas, because maybe over there, and you need to tell me because there's not 13 brisas covenants that were given for the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. So therefore, you have to tell me that any machshirin can't be done. Aval Mila, the Nechas Oleh Yigil braces. But when it comes to Bris Mila, right, that there are 13 covenants. It's so important, right? It's so chashuv. Maybe if a person could have done something before Shabbos, but he didn't end up doing it, nevertheless, do it on Shabbos in order to go ahead and get the 13 covenants. It's so chashuv. Therefore, it's tzricha. Therefore, the Gemara needs to tell us that halacha in this case is like Rabbi Kiva, and even though that you didn't do the preparations you could have done before, we do not allow you to go ahead and do the preparations if it could have been done from before Shabbos. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says,
Naya Mishnah.
You're allowed to do any of the needs of a bris milah, anything that's being done for a bris milah on Shabbos, such as moalin, uparin, or metzitzin. Right? You're allowed to do the cutting off of the foreskin. The priya, right? The priya is pulling back the membrane outside the crown, the atara, and the meitzin, and to go ahead and draw blood. The noisnin Allah yisalpim v'kamon. Right? You're allowed to go ahead and put a bandage on it on Shabbos and kumin. Right? That heals it. And even loy shachim Shabbos, you didn't go ahead and crush the kumin before Shabbos. Lois b'shina v'noisnin. You can go ahead and put it in your mouth and chew it, which is the abnormal way of crushing kumin. But nevertheless, you should try and do it with some sort of shinoi by doing it in your mouth. But nevertheless, you're allowed to go ahead and do that on Shabbos if you didn't do it before. Just do it with the shinoi. And if you didn't go ahead and mix the wine and the oil, Erev Shabbos on Erev Shabbos, then you should go and put each one in a bowl. You can't go ahead and make a bandage, basically the one that's open on both ends. You can go ahead and wrap a rag around, and he's giving Erev Shabbos. He didn't prepare for Erev Shabbos. He didn't bring it over to the place where the baby was. It's like karech halatzba. You can go ahead and wrap it around his finger, or maybe, and they go ahead and carry it that way. Even from another chatzar into this chatzar. But we see that any things that have to do with the bris milah itself is allowed to be done, and we see also even any of the bandages, the post bris milah, since the child is in a sakona, therefore we're allowed to do all these treatments, whether the bandage or the wrap, that to make sure that is done on Shabbos. So let's see the Gemara. So it says on top. It says kulu kol tzarchei milah lasuyu mai. So we said you're allowed to do all preparations for the bris milah, and then we name all the preparations. So what did we include that we didn't list? Now, as we already said, you could do the priya, right? Pulling back the membrane and cutting off the foreskin and drawing blood. And so, but then it was also a statement, a general statement of all needs. So if you already explained every specific need, what did the word all needs, right? Hakol, right? Kulu. What is called tzarchei. So you might. What's come to kulu? What is called tzarchei? What does that come to include? So that's so you heard the Tanna Rabbanan. Take a look at what she says. Hamal kol zman sheu eiseg b'milah chayzer bein al tzitzin u'makvin al samilah bein al tzitzin shein makvin samilah. When the mayel is still involved, so now there any sort of strands or little pieces of skin that are still attached, right, from pulling back the foreskin, if it's still attached, now while the mayel is still working on, pulling it back and making sure that there's no, little pieces of flesh that are attached, the little shreds there. So the mayel, if he's working, so whether or not those are ma'akev or not, right? In other words, that sometimes if you have too many or a certain large amount, I'm not an expert, I know we have some mayels here, but there's a certain amount that would basically say it's not a kosher milah. So whether it's those or even really, really small ones, you're allowed to go, if he's still active and doing the bris milah, he's allowed to do it. However, piresh, but let's say he finished, he actively stopped going ahead and doing the bris milah, the ones that go ahead, and if he doesn't go back, it's not considered bris milah, those he's allowed to go back to. But those tzitzin, right, that were not, that really, in other words, he didn't do a perfect job, but it's still an adequate job and it's still considered to be a kosher milah. He's not allowed to go ahead and go back. So Montana Piresh. So who is this author who says that if he's actively doing it, or once he's no longer active, he's not allowed to go back. So Montana Piresh Rabbi Rechana. So you have a couple suggestions on Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Shmuel ben Noshel, Rabbi Yechon Broki. It's the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yechon Broki. The tiny learned right. So Arbasa Shechal Yais b'Shabbos. If you have, once again, we mentioned earlier, the 14th of Nisan falls out on 14th, Nisan on Shabbos. So we want to minimize the amount of malachas that you need to do on Shabbos. So when you go ahead and you tear off the hide from the animal, right? So he says the first opinion, Rabbi Shimon ben Broka, he says that you're only allowed to go ahead and pull it up to the area that you need, right? Only up until the breast. So you got to do the whole thing. So in other words, according to the first opinion, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, or excuse me, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shmuel ben Broka, according to Rabbi Shmuel. So Rabbi Shmuel holds that you're not, since once you cut it, it's adequate. You're not allowed to basically go back and cut more. So the that would be the same opinion. Once the mila is done, and since it's qualified as a kosher milah, therefore you're not allowed to go ahead and go back and cut off the rest. The Gemara says no, maybe it's different. So he says, Mimai, who says that's the truth? Ad kan look at Rabbi Yishmael has maybe only in case of a Korban Pesach, we don't have the rule of Zek Keli Den Vehu. But over here, in our case, to be not Zek Keli, and I shall beautify. In other words, since there's certain mitzvahs that one should beautify, such as bris milah, right? One should go ahead and give a maybe in this case because we have Zek Keli Den Vehu. Maybe even Rabbi Shmuel would agree that no, go back and cut off their other tzitzin. Hachinami. In this case, he shall so bad. The time learner in Brisa, Zek Keli Den Vehu. So he's now lefanav the mitzvahs. He knows he should go ahead and glorify Hashem with mitzvahs. So how so? Asik lefanav sukkah now, make a nice sukkah, lulav now, and a beautiful lulav. The shofar now, and a nice shofar. Tzitzis now, and a nice tzitzis. Sefer Torah now, and a nice beautiful Sefer Torah. Because of lishma, you should go ahead and write it lishma. B'diona with good ink. B'kolmos now, right? B'laver right, with a good pen, right, with a good not also go ahead and wrap it in just like Hashem spoke compassion, right, right, and mercy. So too, you should act the same way Hashem. That's his opinion of who's that? Abashol, his opinion is that doesn't mean the mitzvahs, means you should act like Hashem does. The Elam Ravashis, whose opinions I mentioned, that says that once you're finished with the bris milah, you can't go back and fix up the tzitzin that aren't me'akev. So maybe some Ravashi, how many there's been a Rabbi Yossi, that's been a Rabbi Yossi. That's now we learn in the Mishnah. Ben Shinir Ba'alil, Ben Shalonir Ba'alil, Mechalana is the Shabbos. So now, when they used to go ahead and be Mechadish the Chodesh, they're Mechadish the Chodesh, and people used to go ahead and go to Beis Din, right, to testify if they saw the new moon. So whether the moon was clear or not, you're allowed to go ahead and Beis Din testify you saw the new moon, and therefore the Rosh Chodesh will come a day earlier. However, Rabbi Yossi says, "Nirin ba'alil ein mechalas Shabbos." If it's clear out, if it's clear, you're not allowed to be mechalas Shabbos. Why? Since it's not cloudy and it's clear, everybody will see it. So therefore, I don't need to go ahead and be mechalas Shabbos for no reason. Why? Because people closer to Beis Din who do not need to be mechalas Shabbos, they can testify. I don't need to. So we want to prevent the Chilul Shabbos. So too in this case, I don't need to go ahead and cut off the remaining shreds because it's already considered a kosher milah. So Gemara says, no, Mimai, who says it's the same thing? Over there, Shabbos didn't have to be violated. It didn't have to be violated because there's people who live close by and they can go ahead and testify. But over here, in this case, Shabbos. But over here, when Shabbos was made to be doicha, because you already did the bris milah, anyways, hakinami, maybe you can go ahead and go back and finish the bris milah. So and the Hardy said the Rabbanan, maybe it's the Rabbanan the pligal of the Rabbi Yossi, maybe it's the Rabbanan who argue in Rabbi Yossi in the following Mishnah. The Tanah with the Mishnah, Abba Kwan Nichnasin Shnai Biyadam Shnei Sedar Shnai Biyadam Shnei Bezifin. So 4 Kohanim enter when it comes to the removing of the breads every week. 2 come each holding a full loaf, right, or a stack. And 2 of them hold the 2 stacks, and two of them hold with the 2 spoons. The arba makdimim lifnei, and the 4 go in front of them. Shnaim litol the shnaim sedarim, shnaim litol shnei bezichim. So the 2 of them take the stacks, and so the 2 of them remove it, and the other one puts it down there. And same thing when it comes with the spoons, right? 2 people go ahead and take it, and two people go ahead and place the new ones in. Because all right, those who are standing on the north face the south, and those who take off the old ones, they stand the south, they face the north. Ella Maishchim ve'elu menichim, right? And as they pull out the elements, put on now each one, right, has each one is basically has their hand on the other one. So therefore, simultaneously, the old ones are removed as the new ones are placed there. So therefore, mishum shenem lifanai tamid, because it says over here that the loaves should be in front of Hashem tamid. So tamid means exactly every single second, and so therefore they hold every single second. And therefore, so too, you only do the exact amount. That every moment is careful, and therefore, right? You say that. In the case of in the case of the bris milah, you don't need to go ahead and do more chilul Shabbos as required. Rabbi Yosef it says no, since they take one down, the other one's put on. That's called tamid. Therefore, we're not worried about those. Every single moment like that. And the same thing, we're not worried about going back and removing some of the shreds that did not be removed. And Tanur Rabbanan, so mahaktinas amila b'imlo hilkut anish kares. So we say over there that when we go ahead and we have to go ahead and cut off the other pieces of shreds that are not removed. And if you don't go ahead and remove those, then a person is actually chayiv kores. So mani whose opinion is this? Some of kahana uman. It must be the uman. In other words, the uman, if he goes ahead and he doesn't go ahead and cut it off, so in other words, he didn't do a kosher milah, and therefore that which he did on Shabbos, he was machal Shabbos, because he was cutting, he made a wound on Shabbos, but the wound wasn't the mitzvah of milah because he left too many shreds, therefore he's chayiv kores. So masker Rav Papa uman, if it's the uman lema luhu on avdi palga the mitzvah and also on avdi palga the mitzvah. I only did half the mitzvah, I did half, you do the rest of it. So why is the uman responsible? Why is the moyel responsible for that? That he can say to the to the person who's over 20, because obviously we're talking, right? You should go ahead and finish the mitzvah. Salam Rav Papa gadol, rather referring to a gadol. In other words, the gadol, if he goes ahead and does it, and if he still has the shreds on, nothing to do with chilul Shabbos. Rather, if he doesn't cut off all the shreds, then he's considered to be chayiv kares for not having bris milah. So Masker Rav Ashi gadol behedek sive. What is it? By Gadol, it says in favorish. But Arel Zachar Shelo Yimo. It says over there, an Arel who's a male, right? He doesn't give a bris milah. He's chayv. So we don't need the obvious to tell me a person who Misa. So Rashi Lielam Uman. Really, we're talking about the guy. He does it on Shabbos. And Uman is chayv on Shabbos if he does the bris milah without taking off the shreds. Who could go? And what's the case? Does ben Hashmashos the Shabbos? No, Ben Hashmashos of Shabbos is coming. In other words, it's almost Shabbos is starting. You're not going to have enough time to do it for bris milah. He says, no, don't worry, Masakina, I'm fast. I can do it the bris milah real fast before Shabbos starts. The Yavad, and he cuts off, he makes the wound. He didn't have enough time to take off all the shreds, and therefore it was not a kosher milah, but he ended up doing some of it on Shabbos. The Ovid, and it turns out he made a chabura wound on Shabbos, the Ovid, the Onish kares. And therefore the Onish, the punishment of making a chabura on Shabbos is kares. Fine. We say it over here, so we say Amar Papa. So we say, it says Papa, ha umna delay ma'it sakanahu the avdinile. So it says if you don't go ahead and draw the blood, right, then it's a sakana. It's a sakana if you don't go ahead and completely draw the blood. It's a sakana of avdinile, and therefore he violates. We have to go ahead and we remove the blood from him. Right, so if he doesn't go ahead, so since the blood was not removed, you go back and make sure you go remove it even on Shabbos. So God says pshita. It's obvious why. Right, but the fact that we're allowed to be mechal Shabbos, right? It's considered to be dumb if it's a pocket. So no, maybe over there that the reason drawing the blood is if you don't do it, it's a sakana. Rather, maybe because drawing the blood is not a chilul. Maybe because the blood is not considered to be a wound. Maybe it's like its own pouch. That which you place it in a little pouch. So kamash blood, chabura, right? He's making a wound, and therefore zakana. If one does not move the blood and draw some blood at the time of the milah, therefore we're allowed to do it, right? V'dumya, these spalnis of the kuman is similar to the bandage and the kuman. Master the kuman like lo avid sakana. If you don't do the bandage and the kuman after to help it heal, it's a sakana. Afachinami. So to over here, kilo avid sakana. So to over here, it will be considered to be a sakana. All right, just a couple more lines. We said, but if nice is palnis, you can go ahead and put a bandage on. So I said he's palgas the kulun. So he said over there, right? So he said that. So his mother told him that basically an ointment they put together, which is basically the best way to go ahead and heal, is shave minai tarbi v'chada kira, is 7 parts of fat and 1 part of wax. And Rav Amar kira v'kalban. Rav says no, it's wax. And this kalba is like some sort of like pitch that comes from a tree, and then I guess you mix that with the wax, and that is good for healing, right? You put it on it, to heal a wound. So Darsha Rav Mechuzah, and Rav went ahead and he publicly darshan Mechuzah, and Karinu b'nei Menyume asil Menayu, right? The family of b'nei of Menyume. Right, they were very upset because that was their family business. Their family business was healing, and that was their secret. And Rav went ahead and told everybody, "Oh, you just got to put some, wax and stuff together." So he says, "Amalu shavkilu chad." He says, "Don't worry, I didn't give away the big secret. There's still one." Demer Shmuel says, "Haiman demash api v'lo yinagiv tuva nikute lechaspinasa." Right, person who goes ahead and he washes his face, but he doesn't go ahead and dry his face. Right, then he starts to get boils and other stuff on his face. And how does he remove that? I didn't tell anybody the ointment, but between you and me, right? My takanase, lisha tuva b'maya desilka. Go ahead and wash it with the water that was soaked in beets, and that will go ahead and cure, I guess, the acne or the boils that come on the face. All right, shkayach, everybody. Have a wonderful day. I got to get out of here. I'll see you. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good Shabbos.
Go.
Bye-bye.
Go.